So, hey y'all, welcome to Keys to the Street. So, I have a very special guest and Baylor classmate on. So, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey y'all, my name is Dr. Ramatu Kasemu. As Kiera said, we went to Baylor together. I think you were a year under me.
I was, girl, a little wildling, girl.
And that is, we've known each other. Well, no, I ain't gonna age us, but we've known each other a good decade. Yes, can you believe it's been
a good little minute? And look at us now, because I just remember, girl, I'm like, if there was anyone I could relate to at Baylor, it was definitely you. I think we came from similar backgrounds as far as just like socioeconomic spaces, and then to just see us excelling in our lanes. I just want to say hats off to you, because girl, you have gotten like so many degrees, I cannot even keep up. So can you tell me just a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so my mom is Liberian. My dad was Ghanaian. They met in Liberia. My mom got pregnant with me, and my dad was like, hey, I want my daughter to be an American citizen. And so he went and, petitioned my grandpa and was like, hey, I want to take your daughter with me to America. And, there was some scuffling, but
a little
tussle. But he eventually agreed. And so my dad brought my mom to America. She was literally like 8 months pregnant with me. I don't know who decided to let her do a transatlantic flight at 8 months pregnant, but they were a little bit more lax. They was out here still smoking cigarettes while they was pregnant. Not my mama, I'm just saying. But those are the things that folks were doing. It's fine. We've learned. We've evolved. And so my mom got here. I was born, and of course, depending on who you ask, I'm the spitting image of my mom. And then people see my dad and be like, no, you're your daddy's child. So
I've only seen photos of your mom. I think I actually may have met your mom when she came up once.
Yes, and probably.
You look exactly like your mama. So I'm one of them.
Yes. And so my dad proposed, and my mom was kind of like, my dad's side of my family is Muslim. And so my mom was like, I want to be one and only, and not one of many. And so, my dad got in his feelings a little bit and abandoned my mom. And so if it wasn't for like the grace of God and strangers, I'm not sure where we would have ended up, to be honest. Like that scene in The Pursuit of Happiness where Will Smith is like sleeping with Jaden in the Greyhound bus station, that was me and my mom, except that I was an infant. And so, my mom is new to the country. She didn't really know how our infrastructure works. And I mean, like, I've been here and I'm in the healthcare industry, and like sometimes, I don't know how things work. So, it wasn't an ideal situation for her. Someone, like I said, the kindness of strangers, someone taught her how like government assistance worked. She was able to find like shelters and such. So we were in and out of homeless shelters until I was about 5. Let me be clear. So because we were in and out of shelters, we were in and out of shelters for women who were pregnant or who had children. So I was not one of those children who thought that the stork brings the baby. Like, I didn't understand the mechanics. I knew that the baby was in the stomach and then somehow it got out. So we were in the shelter, and my mom, let me show you how self-centered I was as a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old. My mom disappeared for like a day. And I was non-concerned, okay? Until Judy, one of my favorite nuns, was like, hey, we're going to go to the doctor and we're going to go to the hospital. And I was like, for what? And she was like, don't you want to see your little brothers? I was like, what little brothers? And she was like, your mom was pregnant. I was like, no, she wasn't. She was just fat. My mom literally had to show me her C-section like incision before I was like, oh, so they do come out of there. But I'm telling you, I was arguing because I was like, why are we going to the hospital? I already got my shots. I don't need no more shots for like 6 months. Why are we going to the hospital? Y'all playing games. And she was like, you don't want to see your little brothers? I was like, what are you talking about? Ma'am, you are wrong and mistaken. And then got to the hospital and there was Jude and Michael. And I was like, oh, They exist.
Wow.
Cool. But, at that point, she had too many kids to be in the shelter. So they helped my mom get an apartment. It was in the projects. But you couldn't have told my mom it wasn't a high-rise downtown. You couldn't have told my mama. She decked it out.
I love Black mamas. Shout out to Black mamas.
Yes. My mama, when I tell you, what is it, rubbing two nickels together to get, man, she was all of it. Plus, my mom was undocumented until I was 10. So we moved around a lot because, she was low-key running from ICE. So I can laugh about it now, but it was funny. At the time, I went to literally like 6 different elementary schools. And that is honestly one of the things that inspired me to become a teacher and whatnot, because even with all that chaos and to be honest, at the time, I didn't realize that it was chaotic until I got older. And I would be talking about it to other people and they would be like, girl, and I'm like, what? Because that's one of the things that you don't realize, as a kid or as a person going through a thing, it seems normal until you talk about it to other people and they're like, why you go to that many elementary schools? And I'm like, oh, well, because my mama, you didn't do this?
Right.
Oh, all right. Well, I don't want to tell you my story anymore because now you're looking at me crazy. Yeah. But through all that, the constant was school. My mom, it didn't matter where we were. Even if we were living in a car or we were we were all in one room in somebody's house that we were staying with. My mom was like a slave to our education. I knew every day between 8 and 3, 8 and 4, whatever the hours of school was, I was going to be at school. And because we moved around so much, sometimes in some places I would be ahead, sometimes I would be behind, but I always had teachers who was like, okay, baby, we're going to get you where you need to be. Yes. And so that was one of the things that actually honestly inspired me to become a teacher. Because let me be real, I did not, when, Baylor me was not trying to be a teacher at all. Baylor me still had the mentality of F them kids.
Okay.
But grace, growth, maturity. But yeah, no, at that time at Baylor, when you knew me, I was sociology pre-med. You couldn't have told me that I wasn't going to be Dr. K, but medically. So,
but you still Dr. K.
I am. So what had happened was my senior year at Baylor, because I was a sociology major, my senior year at Baylor, I had to take sociology and medicine. It's one of my electives, I think. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got introduced to public health. And so I was like, yo, what is this? What? So, public health is supposed to be the preventative side of medicine. So that's your seatbelts, your vaccinations, et cetera. And then medicine is supposed to be it is preventative, but it's also diagnostics and treatment. So, overachiever that I am, I was like, well, if I'm gonna have the best practice, I need to have prevention and diagnostics. So then I was like, I'm gonna go get my MPH. And it was home. I was like, no, public health is where I'm supposed to be. But I still wanted to be a doctor. So I got my PhD.
Still had to get Dr. K.
Yeah, I'm still going to get Dr. K, but it's going to be a PhD this time. And so honestly, in between, so I took a year off in between my master's and my PhD. And honestly, I was bored. I was so bored because since 17 at that point, had been used to working and, having a job and going to school at the same time. Because, I used to put in them hours at the Memorial Cafeteria and then for intramurals, and I was taking 17, 18, yes, I was taking 17, 18 hours a semester because, baby, I got up out of Baylor early.
Okay. I did a victory lap, but I definitely graduated in December as opposed to May.
But you finished though. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. You finished.
And that was one thing that really kind of stuck out to me with you is that I realized I didn't know your story. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I didn't know all of that about you. I knew that, your mom was Liberian. I didn't know, where your dad was from or anything. But I just I feel like when you come from a different place, sometimes you recognize that grit in other people. And I realized that I was from the hood. I was a little hood kid. And it was, my parents were, my dad was in the military, but my mom didn't graduate high school. And my mom is still, to this day, one of the smartest people that I knew, but she didn't graduate because she chose to have me. And, so since then, I've always felt that the least I could do for her is to pursue my education, because I felt like she gave up a part of that for me. And she was a single parent, and she met my stepdad, who, I've never in my life called him my stepdad, because that's just my daddy. Like, he just hold it down. But, they both had high school education, and my dad was in the military once he kind of woke up and didn't want to do that anymore. They didn't have a whole lot of skill sets other than a work ethic. And so my dad and mom was very big on my education. And I didn't even know you study sociology. So I have a minor in sociology. And I remember just realizing as I got further in my education that we talk about all of these equalizers and all of these things that bring equity, money, and resources and things like that. But what I realized is education is really that equalizer in our community. When you teach us something, when you teach us to fish, like, we break down so many other barriers, because
Absolutely.
Black people we gonna make do. We gonna figure it out. We gonna piece something together until it's what we need. And so when you give us the education and the information to do that, we'll figure all the other barriers out. And so I've always been really big on education because of that. And so I recognized that in you, that we didn't have the money a lot of our friends at Baylor had, but we definitely could keep up in the classroom.
Like I said, public health was like, I was like, okay, this is my wheelhouse. But then, like, at that same time, my nieces and nephews were kind of struggling in school, and I would be trying to help them with their work. And I was like, okay, well, there have been so many shifts in education, and to be honest, we on the cusp of a shift right now. But at that time, there was a shift where it had started getting to the point where, so we got sit and get, like, you gonna sit down, you gonna pay attention to this, or I'm calling your mama, I'm calling whoever I need to call, because you're gonna do this work, and that's it. But at that point, we had shifted to, the students need to kind of be, and I don't say this derogatorily, but there essentially was like, the students need to be engaged, they need to be entertained. And it's because, they have a shift in attention spans. Like, we had the attention span to just sit and get. And even if we were mentally not there, we had the presence to be there physically, to look like we were there. Baby, my kids will not be there mentally, and I can tell. Girl, eyes just glazed, looking like fish. And I'm just like, baby, where you go? Come back to me. But yeah, my niece and nephews are fish children. Like, they tend to glaze. And I think a lot of their teachers, like, didn't know how to deal with that. Like, some of my nieces and nephews, and to be honest, I ain't gonna lie to you, I sometimes am confused as to how I've been so successful, because baby, I be in class, I am a daydreamer, but it be coming in, it come in and it sticks some type of way. But my nieces and nephews are daydreamers, and it don't stick. So I would help them with their work, and I was like, okay, that's when I got really, like, so there's a Ghanaian a drinker symbol. It's called Sankofa, which basically means go and bring it back. And so it's essentially that, like, if the child leaves the village and they go and get education, experience, knowledge, skills, you're supposed to bring it back to the village so that the village can also thrive. And so that is what inspired me to get into teaching. But again, Still wanted to pursue my PhD. So I started my PhD the year before I started teaching. So literally there would be days where I'd have to tell the kids like, yo, I got to go to class. I'm not going to be here Friday. And they'd be like, all right, miss. But to be honest, like teaching them and like, I taught in Pleasant Grove. And so,
I'm not familiar with that area. Can you tell?
Oh, okay. So Pleasant Grove is like Oak Cliff, essentially. But they got beef. It is dumb beef, but they got beef. But so to give you an example, the year that I started teaching at my school, there was a gang war. So much so that the girls were not allowed to dye their hair any other color than like a natural color. So much so that like I, as an adult, I had gotten braids or twists or something in the back of my hair. My braids in the back were fuchsia. I had those braids for 2 days because my AP was like, hey, we need you to take that out because, the girls are dyeing their hair so they can show support for which gang. And I was like, I'm not showing support for these gangs. What?
I'm grown.
Right. But I still had to, take my hair down. My school there were bullets, what do you call them? Like you could see where someone had driven by the school and shot it up in the front.
Oh, wow.
But at the same time, my babies I never had problems with my babies. Mm-hmm. Like, at the most it would be like a little talkative, that type situation. But at the same time, I would have those same kids who were good for me would go and cuss the teacher like smooth out to her soul. And I'd just be like, yo,
why do you think that's so?
I was like, what's going on with you? And they're like, man, she pissed me off. And I was like, so then like prime example, our school, like when the kids would be in ISS or they were going to be in school suspension or not in school, that's the same thing. Out of school suspension, we would get like notifications. They would send us an email and be like, so-and-so ISS for blah, blah, blah. So anytime I had a kid, it was like profanity towards staff. I was like, who did you cut? You cut somebody out? And they were like, I don't like them, miss. I'm like, oh. I was like, but you never cussed me out. That's because I like you. And I'm like, okay.
And why do you think that was the case?
So I am very good at, and a lot of times I'm trying to tell the kids that I'm actually naturally shy. I'm an introverted person. I don't like to talk to people. And so they'll be so confused because they're like, but you're so talkative with us. You're down to earth. You cool. You like, tell us about yourself. You ask us about ourselves. And I was like, when they said you ask us about ourselves, I was like, your other teachers don't ask y'all how you doing? They're like, no, miss. And I was like, it speaks to the whole idea of how they say that you have to have a Black teacher at least once in your formative years, because Black teachers just have that system of care. Like we understand that, like, sometimes, look here, little baby, you ain't gonna be able to act right or eat right or, do right in my class if you hungry. I got snacks. You uncomfortable in here because your lady cycle done started and you forgot your stuff. Hey, I got a bag back there. Go handle that. I even had a crying closet. So look here, sometimes you gotta let it out. And you don't want to cry in front of class because then everybody gonna be like, why you crying? Go cry in the closet. Go cry in the closet if you need to. But I think it's just because I'm very good at like creating relationships with my students, because people are always like, oh, the students perform this and that, blah, blah, blah. And they forget the students are living, breathing little balls of energy and awesome that need to
have their own lives and issues and things outside of the classroom that they don't always know how to deal with and cope with.
Exactly. There's this rallying point or whatever, but it basically said that misbehavior is a child's way of expressing their need in the best way that they know how. So anytime a student has, acted crazy with me, I'm like, what's going on? What do you need? What's wrong? Because this what you're doing here is not normal for us. So I need to know what's different so that we can work on it. We can get it together. Like I've never written a referral, and I've been teaching 9 years.
It's been that long?
Yes.
It has not been that long, girl.
Yes. I've been teaching 9 years and I have never written a referral because
and you've already, like, I've definitely seen you win awards. You won like Teacher of the Years and stuff already, right?
Yes, for on campuses and whatnot, not like for the district, which, you know, it's still an honor. It's still an honor.
But, absolutely. And that's multiple times, no?
Yes. And it's just because, you know, I just believe that you don't approach the kids like they data points. You approach them like they humans.
Yeah.
And that's why, like I said, and to be honest, you know, I've had teachers be like some haters and be like, I don't know why the kids like her so much. And I was like, cause I'm amazing. But also if I'm gonna take off my humble hat, because I'm amazing. And I talk to the kids like they got sense. I don't talk to the kids like they children. I mean, yes, I talk to them with love and with, you know, but at the same time, we're gonna get it done. Mm-hmm. But then also, like, you got to remember that students see through BS.
They do. All the time. And if you're not connecting with them, if it's not there for them,
they know. They know immediately. I was like, the kids know, like, all that, well, I get paid regardless of whether you, okay. Yeah. Well, okay, cool. You gonna go get paid. And now I'm not gonna do my work because you don't care about me. You don't care about me as a person.
I used to substitute teach, and I also was in, worked for CIS back in Waco when we were at Baylor. Mm-hmm. And I remember it was a couple schools that we worked at, but they were, you know, some of the rougher schools. And at that time, I think Waco was like the 5th poorest city in Texas at that time. And so there was just really big, just socioeconomic differences in Waco. And we've seen that, you know, we lived that. But going there and working at schools, I'll never forget, I'm a part of this group, and it's a lot of us tutors and stuff working after school, but it's only like 2 or 3 Black girls and the rest are like, you know, white Baylor students. Mm-hmm. And it was a student that they just could not connect with. And she was just a little smart mouth little girl. She was like a junior or senior. And at that point, by the time that I came in, they just would let her come in after school. She had to do hours for something. Come in after school and just sit by herself. They wouldn't ask her anything. They wouldn't work with her. You know, none of that. Yeah. So I remember coming in, watching her a couple days. I tried to talk to her. She got an attitude at one point. And she was just like, Miss, you don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know why y'all rich students come over here. I said, girl, rich where? I said, I'm from the same hoods you from. What we not gonna do is you talk to me crazy with these plastic earrings in your ear. What we gonna do is work on you getting to college, you know? And every day after that, I remember working with her, and just all the other tutors that I worked with were just so surprised. But I'm like, y'all don't even try and connect with these kids. And I was so excited to see her a year later actually get into a school. And I think she ended up going to TSU. And it's just like, dang, if I just let her stay there and she was failing, where she would have been, as opposed to just pouring into her. And I mean, that is just one story. And, you know, of course, I'm not a teacher by any means, but just hats off to the teachers, but specifically hats off to the Black teachers, because I don't know a Black teacher that doesn't go above and beyond their pay grade, above and beyond their job description to connect with these kids. So shout out to you, Dr. K, all the Black teachers we know and the ones we don't, because y'all be really doing a damn thing. And during COVID, like, can you talk about how that transition changed your teaching styles, or if it impacted it at all?
It definitely did. Like, you had to get used to like talking to a black screen and sounding like Dora the Explorer, because baby, I was like, y'all gonna talk to me. We gonna figure it out. Like, y'all gonna talk to me, or we gonna go get these grades, because I need some it's when you, the best way I can explain it is like when you it's like a comedian. When they have an audience, they got something to feed off of. You got that energy, but trying to keep your same high energy when you talking to a screen and all the kids got their cameras off, and I'm like, half of y'all probably sleep, but I had to do something different. But it was so much so exhausting, because then it's like, I feel like I have to amp my energy up to overcompensate for their lack of energy. Yeah. And, you know, but also realizing that, like, okay, we're in a pandemic, so it's okay that they tired. I'm tired, but we here. So I had to, girl, I was that whole summer when they was like, you know, luckily, I wasn't one of those teachers that had to do a lot to prepare my kids. Because, you know, basically we went to spring break and then we never came back. So I was one of those kids, or one of those teachers that didn't really have to prepare my students because I had been using Google Classroom with my students the entire year. But yeah, the rapidness with which we got them kids ready, but then the teachers weren't ready. Like, there were some teachers who didn't know how to use Google Classroom. And I'm like, bro, we done had this all year. What y'all been doing? What y'all been doing? Because I'm like, oh, y'all don't play no games with the kids. That's what that is. Y'all don't play no games. Y'all don't post no interactive assignments. But y'all over here being like, I don't know why they like Dr. K so much. Because I'm awesome.
Amazing. So, Dr. K, we got the MPHs, we got the PhDs, we have you teaching. And what do you actually teach? Because you taught different subjects, right?
I have. So, I first started teaching physics. And I would always do that was probably one of the reasons why the kids liked me so much. I would do quotes of the week, and for each of the quotes of the week, I would tell the kids like a little story, like a life lesson type thing. Mm-hmm. But it was my way of like infusing health and like social topics into physics, because physics is like one of those. Physics is a mathematical science, and if it sounds like that rolled off my tongue so easily, it's because I used to have to say it to the kids all the time. Miss, we in science. Why we doing so much math? Because physics is a mathematical science. That's why. But I taught physics, and then, yeah, girl, that's how I, like I said, my students influenced. So my areas of expertise for my PhD and like in public health are maternal and child health, mental health, and marginalized populations. And by marginalized populations, I mean minority population. I don't like saying minority because we ain't minor, but marginalized populations.
Major.
Yes, we are. But marginalized populations. But it's because, like, my first year teaching, I taught juniors and seniors, right? And because they had messed up the senior schedule, so my classes were pretty much like half and half. Some of them were predominantly seniors, some of them predominantly juniors. But the amount of things that the kids did not know about their bodies, and I'm like, bro, y'all about to go into the worlds. Like, prime example, and I thought the kids was lying when they told me, but we were having some type of discussion, and I said something about like, you needed to use protection. And one of my boys was like, well, Coach so-and-so, which was the health teacher at the time, said, if your pull-out game is strong, you don't need a condom. So this kid said this to me, and I thought he was lying. But then multiple kids said it over different class periods. And I was like, this man is out here telling the kids that they don't need to use condoms if they pull-out game is strong.
Oh, I was like, God.
I was like, first of all, the pull-out method is only like 78% effective. First. Secondly, I literally have nieces and nephews that are a result of quote unquote pull-out method. Third, it only take a second for the STDs. And they were like, what, miss? And I was like, oh God. Okay, so you know what? Or another time a child told me that he only gets head because cats got rabies. And I was like, mouths got rabies. It took me a minute to understand what he was saying, because I was like, what? But so I started, like I said, taught physics, and then I was still teaching physics, but also teaching anatomy. I had to petition for my school to offer anatomy, because I was like, yo, these kids don't know about their bodies. Like, they need to know about their bodies, because children who don't know about their bodies grow up to be adults who don't know about their bodies, and they grow up to be unhealthy adults. But of course,
children who don't know about their bodies usually fall victim to crimes and criminal-like issues because they're easily swayed when they don't have information about their bodies.
Exactly. So I, threw in with the anatomy, because, typically anatomy is supposed to be just like, oh, this is the body, this is what it does. So I structured it, because it was, high school anatomy. I structured it to like, all our units were, this is all of the components of this body system. This is what these things do. This is what happens when things go wrong. And like for our neural unit, we did, like I made sure I brought in all the social emotional learning. We did a burning ritual. I almost set the school on fire. I didn't set the school on fire, but girl, I just knew. So let me tell you what had happened. So we doing the neural unit, right? And I was like, okay, we're going to do this burning ritual. And I was like, what you do is you take a sheet of paper, you write all your woes on it. And when you get to the bottom, don't flip the paper. Go back to the top and keep writing over what you already wrote. So first, my second period I was off that year for first period. Second period is doing it. And when I tell you they were weeping, I was unprepared. I was unprepared. My babies are crying. Oh God, my babies are crying. Like one of my boys, his dad had passed like a couple weeks before, and I mean just bawling as he was writing. I was like, oh God, I should have. Was this the right move? Mm-hmm. But then. So I had a metal trash can. I told them put all their letters in the trash can. I put some alcohol on it, and we were inside, lit it on fire, right? It went up like a Christmas tree, okay? Like lit up. So they're just standing around watching, and I could see them lift, like their shoulders lifting. And so then I did the fire extinguisher, whatever, right? First of all, this is my first time in real life doing a fire extinguisher. I did not know the stuff comes out like that. I was like, oh God. So then it's smoke, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, realized I'm right underneath a sprinkler. I was like, oh my God. Mind you, we're doing star makeups that day. So I was like, oh God, if the sprinklers go off and they rain on these test booklets, the school has to pay for these test booklets. I was like, open the windows. My kids running across the room. We got you, miss. We are flapping our arms. We come out for lunch and it's people coming up the hall. Why does it smell like smoke? My kids, because they ride for me. I don't know. Well, I smell smoke too. I was like, oh my God, that's how I know y'all ride for me. But the next couple classes, I made sure that we did it outside. But that was one of the things too. Like my babies got to watch me graduate. Like with my PhD, they got to watch me graduate. Cool. And like they were sending me, I was kind of okay. I wasn't gonna cry or whatever, but I walked across the stage and I'm getting screenshots. Like they're sending me screenshots. Yeah. And congratulations. And girl, when I tell you, I was like, thank God I done already took my graduation pictures because baby, this mascara is for the birds. It's gone. And I was like, no, I can't cry. But even like my old students, like I keep in contact with old students as well. Like my oldest students are like 26, 27 now. And first of all, that blows me. That blows my mind. I was like, oh my God, you're so old. And they're like, Miss, what about you? And I was like, mind your business. First of all, no one told you to flip this on me. But my students are a large inspiration. Them and like things that I have just seen and interacted with in the educational system are a large inspiration for Dr. K's Health Minute. And
I was going to ask you, like, when we going to get to Dr. K's?
To be honest, one of my kids named it, created that name. But I currently teach biology and I also teach environmental systems. So I have freshmen and then I have seniors. And, they flip-flop and act like each other sometimes.
Right.
They were a large inspiration for Dr. K's Health Minute. So Dr. K's Health Minute, I intended to supply easy accessible and digestible health bites as a social media platform. That is the idea behind it. Now, as a business, I am a public health consultant as well as an academic writing coach because I had gotten tired, like even with my own experiences, because to be honest, like the time that you met my mama when she came up to Baylor, that was when I had that surgery. I had gotten diagnosed with endometriosis, and that whole experience alone and like the journey of dealing with endometriosis since is a factor. My sister It took them forever. She passed away. She had multiple scleroderma. Scleroderma. Sorry, I don't know why that word is so hard for me to say. Systemic scleroderma. And it took them years to diagnose her because they kept saying, oh, it's just arthritis. It's just arthritis. It's just this, that, and the third. Like a lot of medical gaslighting, a lot of not being listened to. My mom, during the pandemic, got both her knees, or like during the original shutdown, got both her knees replaced. And the doctor did a shoddy job on one of the knees. And so she kept trying to be like, I need an MRI, I need this, I need that. And he was like, no, it's fine. It's the healing. It's the blah, blah, blah. And so I finally had to tell my mama, like, tell him, look, I want you to document in my chart that you are not doing what I asked for. And I'm also going to go get a second opinion. Oh, immediately. Okay, well, we can schedule your surgery. We can go back in and see. And I was like, you shouldn't have had to threaten him.
You shouldn't have took it. Why did it take that?
Exactly. And then, you know, all of the stories of like Black women dying or almost dying, like, and it's across like social economic status. I mean, hell, Beyonce and Serena almost died. And I was like, y'all just really out here treating us trifling. Yeah. And a lot of times we're not allowing it, but we're not equipped with the knowledge and skills to realize that things that are going on are wrong.
Yeah, you're right. I had a really traumatic experience as a mom, giving birth to my first daughter. I was 36 weeks and I went for a checkup and I got into a wreck coming back. So after my checkup, at my checkup, they said everything was fine. I was dilating. Everything was great. Having that wreck, I guess maybe like scared my baby, and she kind of turned in my stomach. And so then I go back to deliver, and I didn't deliver until I was 42 weeks. So girl, I was miserable because I'm like, it became a joke with my friends. Like, an elephant is pregnant like 2 years. Yeah. It's like, girl, you are elephant. Like, this baby finna walk out eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at this point. Like, when are you gonna have this baby? And so I had to be induced. And when I was induced, I was telling them that I was losing the feeling in my leg. But they were just like, oh, it's sciatica. But I was like, something's wrong. Like, something is wrong. And so I was in labor for 2 days before they realized that when she turned, that the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck. So she was basically stuck inside in utero. Yeah. And so then then her heart rate started dropping. So as I'm induced and they're trying to get me to deliver on my back, I can't be on my back longer than a minute without the oxygen levels start dropping. And so I wanted to have, no medicine. I wanted to do it, natural. And I ended up having to get an emergency C-section. And because they waited so long, I could still feel like I got an epidural, but I could still feel like the cutting and like smell, of course you smell the skin burning, but I could still feel like the jerking and the tugging and stuff. And that was just like really traumatic for me because I'm like, I told y'all something was wrong and y'all didn't listen to me. And my baby could have had brain damage because of the oxygen levels, dropping so low for long periods of time. And so I just think, the work that you do in the classroom and outside is just so needed in our community. And you've gotten a little following, on your social media platforms. And X the little, I didn't mean that at all, but I'm like, girl, it seemed like it happened overnight and you just been picking up. So Dr. K's Health Minute, where can they find it?
They can find it on Instagram at dr.ks.healthminute. The same on TikTok. Dr. K's Health Minute on Facebook, and it's also on LinkedIn. I recently just joined, or I recently created a business page because I did not know in order to be able to put Dr. K's Health Minute on my LinkedIn resume or whatever, that I had to make myself a business page. And I was like, I can make myself a business page? Y'all ain't gotta say nothing.
Girl, you legit now. Like, yes, you've definitely been picking up steam. So congrats to that. Congratulations. And also, I just want to thank you because, I reached out because I wanted to highlight you for Women's History Month. You've been doing just the work you've been doing is just so respectable. And so thank you for, taking the time to meet with me. But I just got one last question, maybe two. Where do you see Dr. K's Health Minute in 1 year? And then where do you see it in 5 years?
Okay, so as I was saying, I am a public health consultant, but I'm also an academic writing coach. And the academic writing coach came along, again, also inspired by my students, because I've seen so many works be discredited just because they don't follow, technical English standards and whatnot. And so I help people rise to that standard, or elevate rather to that standard. And then on the public health side, I consult with agencies to create culturally responsive and appropriate public health promotion programs. So to be honest, in 1 year, I hope that Dr. K's Health Minute, I'm working on them now, but I am developing a comprehensive health education curriculum for high school students, or rather 7th grade through high school, through senior. But basically, I want, the health curriculum that we got sucks. It sucks. I want our babies to be holistically educated about their health. And I mean about everything. Health, sexual health, advocating for yourself, and all of that. And not just, understanding that the nuances in health, because, we get taught health based off of the standards of the majority, which do not apply in my student populations. So I'm working on that curriculum. I am also working on offering online courses for mindfulness, also for parents on how to discuss mental health with your babies, because we live in an age now where the students, my kids, my students, I call them my kids, they are able to name that they're depressed, that they're anxious. Whereas, our generation, we was walking around here, stomachs tight, chest tight, and just was like, it's fine. So they're able to name it, but we don't have we don't have resources for it. Right. We don't have resources. And a lot of times, their parents don't know how to deal. They're somewhat getting resources at school. My babies get resources through me, but, I can only be one person in the school. And while I'm, I provide SEL strategies every week for our staff, because, I believe in you got to pour, you can't pour from an empty cup. So I'm trying to pour into the staff so they can pour into the kids through overflow. Right. But I want to offer courses, one for mindfulness, one for mental health talks, basically for parents and their children. And it was one other one that I was thinking of, but I hadn't really fleshed that one out. To be honest, none of them are fleshed out, but I know I want to do them.
Go get it done. Okay.
Yes. And I will be, I want on the writing side, I want to start offering group coaching and workshops. I've done workshops, but I want to start doing them consistently. In 5 years, I want Dr. K's Health Minute to be sustainable. I want it to be a go-to place for us, to be honest, because I structure my posts and I structure my content in a way that it's accessible to everyone, but it's for us. It's some FUBU stuff. We on some FUBU stuff right now. This is for us, by us. I want to help. I want to be out here helping reduce health disparities in our people, because it's ridiculous. the amount of things that we go to and go through, and I get that a lot of it, you know, when they're like, oh, Black people are more likely to X, Y, and Z, a lot of that, oh, we're more likely to is proximity, is actually because of low SES, and we're doing proximity to race. But at the same time, like, what about those people? I think about those people like my mom who don't have me, a person like me, to be like, no, mama, this is what you need to say. Mm-hmm. And how those outcomes could turn out so much differently. And so in 5 years, I would, like I said, I hope to be I want to hire some. Hopefully, I've hired some. I know I've hired. You know what? We're gonna speak it into existence.
Okay, I'm like,
I will have hired people.
You manifesting.
Yes,
it's you season. It's me season.
Yes, I will have hired people to continue and to like spread that impact, because again, we operate on Sankofa. Like all the things that I've gone out and learned, and I'm still learning, I'm bringing all that back to the village. Mm-hmm. And my peoples are my village. And luckily,
your babies are your village.
Absolutely. And luckily, you know, with the internet and social media and whatnot, I'm able to express and, you know, bring my village is expanding, like you said, rapidly. Like literally, I did one TikTok, and
next generation of change makers and disruptors, and I'm so excited.
Exactly. I want Dr. K's Health Minute to be a source, and for people to understand, like, okay, these people actually here for us. And it's not lip service. It's not rooted in like in diet white supremacy. Yeah. No, like this is for us, so that we can be better for the future, for now, the present, and the future.
So thank you so much for your time here today. And I just want to say that I'm honored to have you here for so many reasons, but different cities. You're in Dallas, right?
Yes.
And I'm in Austin, and it's just been so cool to watch our journeys kind of almost like not parallel, but us be in different markets and do different things that, you know, we've learned from Baylor and taking that information and education and instilling it in our community and advocating for our community. And so I'm just honored to have you here today. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for your time. And my last question, because as a Black woman, as a doer, as a, you know, we talk, but as a doer and a mover and a shaker, how are you taking care of you? How are you pouring back into you? Because I understand your mom was that hard worker. You're doing everything above and beyond. So how do you take that time to love on yourself and to practice that self-care for yourself?
So to be honest, I love this about me, is that is a continuously growing process. Because as you said, my mama was a hardworking woman, and baby, whether she meant to or not, mama raised a hustler.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know, like when you have that mindset of like, baby, it's gonna get done. It will get done.
But and if you don't do it, I do it myself.
Inside, right. On the inside though, I might be cracking a little bit. Yeah. And so I have learned to notice my cracks and to catch my cracks, or rather my splinters, before they become cracks. And so
come on now, preach.
Yes. And so I have, like, obviously you can't see it, but I have behind my laptop on my wall, I have this. I sat down one day. I was feeling very, very full of myself, girl. Very full. And I wrote.
Sometimes it's necessary.
It is, girl. I wrote all these little cards that have like my attributes. So it's like my experience culminates in wide and varied abilities. When I speak, people listen. Stuff like that. And so this is my like pouring into myself wall. So anytime that I get down, or my my imposter syndrome gets to talking that smack, I go and look at my wall, and I pour mentally. I pour into myself that way. As far as like physically, emotionally and such, I am the queen of naps. Okay. If there was a category in the Olympics for napping, I would bring home the gold.
Okay,
for the nap.
girl, because if it's one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to lay down.
I'm going to lay down, okay? I listened to my body. That was the thing that I realized at Baylor that I did not do enough of, was listening to my body. And years later, I'm not perfect at it. Not at all. Because there's sometimes when I'm like, all right, I know you're tired, but we got stuff to do. But taking that time to pause and be mindful has very much so helped me, because I was like, I can't be out here telling my babies they got to pause and I'm not pausing.
True. Well, thank you so much for your time this morning, for bringing, doing the Lord's work and speaking the Lord's word today, girl. Thank you. I have Dr. Ramatu.
Yes.
Simu?
Yes.
I got it.
Yes.
Girl, because I ain't going to say your nickname on here, but that's right. But thank you. In the meantime, y'all, check out Dr. K's Health Minute on TikTok, on Instagram, and now apparently on LinkedIn. Woo woo.
Yes, ma'am. Woo woo. Thank you so much for having me. It has been so great to catch up. We obviously got to do this offline more as well.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Have a good morning.